How you doing, Kurt?
Good, Don. How are you?
Oh, doing good.
Did you get my lengthy email?
Yeah, I got a long email.
So I've got a hive that's going like gangbusters.
Need to split it then.
Yeah, so that's the this will be my third package that I've done. My first package didn't make it through the winter last year.
Well, did you treat for mites or anything?
No, it was going fine through the winter up until December, and probably just first time beekeeping. Mistake, not enough ventilation. Water got to them.
Yeah, that's one thing that'll kill the bees faster than anything else is moisture.
Yeah.
Do you have your hive tilted forward?
No, probably not enough.
Best thing to do is get it level horizontally and then kind of vertically, so you're leveling it up both ways.
Right.
And put a minimum of a 2x4 under the back.
Okay.
Or a minimum of 3/4 board. I like a 2x4, which gives it an 1.5 inch fall at 20 inches.
What about the spacers I see people putting underneath the inner covers to tilt that back and then open up a big front section on it and then put the telescoping cover over the top of it?
Well, I use a drilled hole under the handhold with a hardware cloth over each hole.
Yep.
And I drill every single box. Of course, that gives you a lot more, ventilation. Also, we run hive top feeders, and the hive top feeder gets you ventilation. How you doing, Thomas?
So what should I do, a walk-away split with this hive that's going crazy?
What I would do is, how many supers you got on it?
I've just got 2 deeps right now, and it's probably got maybe they're 8-frame deeps, and there's 2 of them together, and she's probably got 4 or maybe 6 not filled out with brood and honey on them.
What is it that you're trying to do? Are you trying to build numbers? Are you trying to make honey? What do you want to do?
I'd rather build numbers. I've got 2 hives. One's Carniolan and the other one's Italian, and I think it's the Italian one that's going crazy.
How much equipment do you have right now? Extra.
That would take, I've got a whole hive extra, an 8-frame setup that's not in use. That was my hive last year.
That won't be enough. If you take those double deep and leave them just like they are, and do you have a hive top feeder?
I can get one. Yeah, they're not hard.
All right, I would get a hive top feeder and I would put some feed to them right along with the honey flow. And don't put no supers on there. And you'll have at least 12, maybe 13 frames that's going to have cells. Are you using wood and wax, or are you using plastic?
Both, actually. I'm changing out plastic. So I do have a whole bunch of plastic I could use if...
Well, I don't use plastic, but what I'm getting at is if you got plastic, you're not going to be able to cut queen cells.
Right.
So basically, you could make 12 splits easy. Let the hives make queen cells. Then take a frame that's got the queen cell that's sealed with maybe 1 frame of shake-off bees with it and put it in a nuke box.
So see if they make queen cells first.
You can jump up at least 12 splits right off that wall.
So see if they'll make queen cells. See if they'll make queen cells on their own before I try and split them.
Am I off of there?
I would take the queen cells and use them to make splits.
Yeah.
Or should I try and make strips of cells and turn them upside down like you show on some of your videos to have them artificially make queen cells quicker?
You can do that there. The main thing you want to do is try to get your boxes ready. If you don't have boxes, you're not going to be able to do any splitting.
Yeah, I've got 1 extra box it's a whole 8-frame. I've got 2 deeps and 2 mediums. I've got a whole setup that's not being used.
Well, you're going to need at least 3 or 4 complete setups.
Okay.
At least nuke boxes.
All right. I can rip out some nuke boxes pretty fast. That won't be hard.
If you can build them things fast, I would basically let them things get overcrowded and use the cells. That's going to be your best splits.
Okay.
A walk-away split is going to take a month of your time.
Yeah, that's what I was concerned about. I live in St. Louis, and it's just been crazy, crazy weather. The rain, it's been heavy at times, which obviously knocks all the pollen, and I'm sure it knocks the nectar around, like I guess. So it's
Mm-hmm.
been weird this year.
Well, another thing you have to look at, you got to look at your hive, and you got to make sure that you got drones. If you don't got no drones, and you only got one hive or two hives, you're not going to get much mating.
Yeah, I noticed a bunch of drones in there this week.
Well, you could try it. I mean, it's all learning.
Yep. Think they'd still
Looks
have
like
enough
we got
numbers
a
if I
full
tried to
house
split and
tonight.
it didn't work, and they'd be all right through the rest of the summer into the winter.
Well, everybody's going to go to overwintering different. I like to overwinter in five-frame nukes. That's the way I like to do it. A five-frame nuke goes through the winter much better than a double deep.
Mm-hmm. All right. Well, I'll see what my temptations are this week.
Well, it's just played by ear. The main thing is build you some nuke boxes. If you're
Okay.
going to build numbers, I would build at least 5 to 10 nuke boxes minimum.
Yeah. Okay. I can rip those out. Those are easy.
Yeah.
Yeah, I got a
And
question, Don.
okay.
So you're talking about the double deeps. What do you think the latest in the year you'll be able to do a walk-away split with a double deep and have successful mating?
Well, that just depends where you live. I'm in kind of North Georgia at the edge of the mountains, and I do my splits up in October.
I'm in Northwest Florida.
Oh, you can. I lived at the Florida-Georgia line. You know where Valdosta is? I made
Yes,
them
sir.
all year down there, all the way through. You don't get as good of mating in late December, early January, but you still can make bees. You can make queens. You just can't make as many and as good of ones.
So I can still do it relatively within the next couple months. I have a double deep, lots of brood in both chambers and all that, so I want to just do kind of a walk-away split. I just wanted to make sure I had plenty of time.
Well, when you talk about a walk-away split, you're looking at 1 month actually lost. Just feed them or let them build up and don't put no supers on. As soon as they get crowded, they're going to make cells. Once you got a sealed queen cell, from that point, you're only looking at a half a month. And if you go in there every 14 days with a sealed, ripe queen cell, you can basically have a nuke up and running in 7 to 10 days. Because you don't need a frame of pollen, you don't need a frame of brood, you don't need all the stuff that everybody says. All you need is actually a honey frame if you had a queen cell on it, or a small patch of brood, say 3 inches, 4 inches, pull it out of the second or third box. If it's got a queen cell on it, that's all you need. As long as it's sealed, they don't need pollen to feed it, you don't need brood, you just need enough bees to keep that cell warm. And when it hatches and that queen flies out and comes back and starts to lay, then go into another hive or the same hive and get 1 frame or 2 frames of bees that are hatching. That boosts that nuke right up to full strength in a matter of 3 to 5 days.
Well, I
But
kind
see,
of
if
wasn't
you're
going to use a nuke. I was just going to take, right now it's 2 deeps. I just wanted to take one of the deep boxes and just move it aside.
well, you can do that, but here's the thing you're looking at. When you do that, you're splitting your hive basically in 2. Even if you split it in 3, do you see the amount of bees you got there? And when that queen comes out, there's no guarantee she's going to return. And if she doesn't return, you've lost half or third of your hive. So it's better to do minimal amount of splits with a queen, and when she proves herself and comes back, then add more brood to it. But by doing that walk-away split, I see too many people that do it and they lose brood. Whether you live in the mountains or live up in North Missouri or wherever you live, if the mountains are getting cold, the temperature drops to 55, and you got a frame of pollen, frame of brood, frame of honey in there, they're going to cluster to the center. And if they're only covering 3 to 5 inches, everything on the outside of that gets chilled. And that's what they call chill brood, and they'll be hauling it out. So you're
Fortunately,
losing.
I don't think I'll have to worry about that around here for a while. I don't.
Well, when they're making queens, they will cluster around where they're making cells.
I just mean the weather. As far as 50 degrees, we won't see that till, you know, December, January, if that. So.
Well, I'm mentioning that as the coolest that you want to get to. That's when they start to cluster up, you know, when they're making cells.
Okay, next.
Anyone else got any question? Jen or Ed's got one. Maybe.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, yeah.
Well, it's not really too big of an important thing. I put a honey super on last week,
Uh-huh.
figuring that, and I put an excluder on just to put it on there, and they were all the bees were up in there, but they weren't building any comb.
Why did you put a queen excluder on?
I guess I didn't want them to build up and put the queen up in there.
Well, let me ask you this then. Why do you have the beehive to start with?
Well,
Are you trying to make honey?
well, a little bit of both. I want honey and some bees, you know.
All right. Well, when you put a queen excluder, you restrict the queen. Also, you shorten the life of all them bees. They have to squeeze through there. So basically, the life expectancy, you're wearing the wings out, you shorten it. Now, if you stop and think about it, if you let that queen go up into the next box and there's brood there, and you're saying you don't want brood in your honey, the smartest thing is to put another box on top of that. More bees make more honey. That queen is smart enough to know where to stop. So that's one reason I give up queen excluders. It shortens the life of the bee, and they don't draw that comb out up above it as easy.
Well, you know, that's how I ended up with this double deep situation. I thought I just threw another deep on top of my first hive, and it seemed like, you know, in March they filled it right up with honey, but I just checked it today, and now it's mostly brood and stuff in the top box and not the bottom box.
Well, you could take their situation there and put another deep on top of it and start checkerboarding. I mean, as the bees hatch out, they're going to backfill it with honey if they're not already doing that now in the brood chamber. See, a queen is going to go up, but so high. Usually 15, 18 inches is normal. If you go 24 inches, you've got an exceptional queen. That would be 3 deep boxes. So if you put 3 deep boxes on there, you're going to make a lot of bees. You're going to make a lot more honey. I've run combinations on about any way you can sit there and think of them. I've run double queen systems. I've run triple queen systems, trying what works and what don't. You're going to run a double queen system with a queen excluder, then you're going to have swarms constantly.
So you're saying basically if I add more supers on top of that double deeps, she'll eventually stop going up and they'll eventually just keep filling it with honey?
Yep. Yep.
Okay, well, I can do that too.
Well, the thing is, the queen excluders, a lot of commercial people are doing it that doing pollinating. They're running a single deep with a queen excluder. They're stripping every drop of honey because the honey is so valuable. And what they're doing is feeding back sugar. It's a lot cheaper, but it's not as good on your bees. That's why people are losing bees, because they're putting artificial stuff in there, and there's no benefit nutritionally.
You were talking about the queen earlier.
Right.
My queen, she's amazing. She's laying like crazy.
If you got a bunch of brood there, you're going to make honey. Now, if you're up 2 boxes or 3 boxes, whether you run 10 frame, 8 frame, or whatever you're running, on a 10 frame, you can run 9 up that high. That way, you're going to have wider comb. It's easier to extract. On an 8 frame, I've run as low as 6. They just make 2.5, 3-inch wide comb. I mean, you're going to have 1.5 inches on each side. It's just a lot easier for extracting, but, you know, it's heavy to lift.
So Don, you were asking me earlier about drone comb.
Right.
There are drones now running around in the one hive that's going crazy. What is that a sign of anything?
Well, a hive is going to swarm. It's going to make a bunch of drone comb. You can have brand new foundation in there. When you start seeing a fourth of it, a frame of drone, they're telling you that they're going to swarm within 3 weeks. Because it's usually 3 weeks when they start making drones before they start to swarm. The drones will have to be old enough to fly out and mate.
So I guess wait another week or two and see if they start making queen cells?
Well, they'll make queen cells if they're going to swarm on you. You know, crowding those bees down, you can force them to make queen cells. And that's the easiest way to make splits. You lose less bees that way just by cutting cells out. Now, if you're running plastic or that Pureco stuff, what you have to do then is build you a queen castle and put the whole frame in there, because you're not going to be able to cut cells on plastic.
What's that acorn frame that I read about online?
Acorn frame?
I mean foundation, acorn foundation.
I don't think I've seen that. There's a lot of stuff people come out with, you know, you name it and they'll come out with it. But I'm a wood and wax person, and I used to buy foundation, or I used to take my waxing, have it made up into foundation. Now I actually, in the process, I sell wax mills now, because there's no guarantee when you buy wax from anybody it's going to be chemical free, and I keep all the chemical out of my hive.
Yeah, once I build up with bees and stuff like that and some hives, I'd like to buy a wax mill and do my own.
That's the best way to go. It pay for itself in loss of hives the first or second year. I mean, it sounds like it's pretty high in investment, but in the long run, when you're not losing bees and everybody that you talk to is losing 10, 20, 30%, and when you're running your own foundation and you're not stripping the hives down, you know, to let them starve, and you're running 2 to 4% losses, it pays for a wax mill pretty quick.
Do you have to buy both mills, or can you just buy the one that does the pattern?
You know, that's another thing. People are trying to sell you more than what you need. If you look at the wax videos that I've done, I've showed the process. And what I do is I dip a flat sheet, and then I run it through the embosser. That eliminates one of your mills. So you can basically get into making your own wax, you know, with one mill.
Can you just use a flat sheet if you don't have a mill, or would that?
Well, I have seen it done. You could basically, what you have better luck with is a starter strip. You want to cut a strip on flat sheets, if you're dipping flat sheets, about 2 inches. All that's going to do is try to keep the comb straight. It doesn't guarantee what type of comb that they're going to make. We're using starter strips right now embossed. We take a full deep and we cut 5 sheets out of it, 5 strips. So right now, bees are doing much better drawing their own comb. That gives them a pattern to work from. But now in the spring, I use full sheets because the honey flow is not as heavy. They draw it out. You can turn that frame as far as brood in a nuke a whole lot faster. Did that help you out?
Oh, it did. I've been looking online and stuff like that to do my own foundation too, you know.
Well, I sell the mills. I can put you a mill in, and I teach you how to run that mill. You will be proficient when you leave here. I've already trained several people that's bought mills from other companies. for 2,800 to 3,500, and there's no instructions come with them. And they call you up and they don't know how to make foundation. They can't get it to work. So when I do a one-day class, they leave here and they are proficient in making foundation. It's basically just like making queens. If it was so easy, everybody in the world would be making queens.
I've been watching your videos a lot. I even seen the one with the foundation in that.
Mm-hmm. Well, you got it all figured out there. You shouldn't have to take classes on it.
Well, I still want to take classes and stuff too, you know.
Yeah, that helps.
Hey Don, last week we talked about some mites and the beetles and stuff, and I mentioned about wanting to maybe start using the vaporizer with oxalic acid. I went to the bee meeting and they said down here with the warm weather that it's not very effective. I didn't know how do you feel about that?
It's funny that people would say it's not effective. It's the only thing that I know that is 100% effective on mites. And people that throw their nose up and say it's not effective, that'll work in cold weather, it'll work in hot weather. It can be used anytime the bees are flying. Now, if you're in cold country, you don't want to stick it in there in midwinter and break up a cluster. But the acid is what's killing the mites. So it's 100%. And if you got a vaporizer, whether you get it from me, build your own or whatever, you use that. The only way that hive is going to die, it'll die from starvation. It won't die from mites.
And so again, you would have to do that 3 weeks in a row, or every 14 days, maybe.
No. You've got different situations. If you have a hive that hasn't been treated for a year or 2 years, and you're just getting into that program, you have to break that mite cycle. Anything that's capped brood, that vaporizer is not going to do no good. It's sealed. It's that wax, the oxalic acid is not going to do nothing. The only bees it's going to treat is the ones that's walking or crawling or flying in there. So you have 21 days from the first time they're going to hatch. So that's actually the same mite cycle, the lifespan or the hatching period. So you want to treat them, if you've never treated them, once every 3 weeks to break the cycle, then once a month or every 2 or 3 months. Last year we treated these hives here twice a year. But if you have a heavy mite population, you're going to have to knock it down, treat it until you once you get it set up.
Yeah, I don't have a big mite problem right now, but I'm just looking because this is going to be the big time of the year. Apparently, come June, July, and August, supposedly the mite count goes really high around here. So I was going to pull all my honey off and then start my treatment, and then stop again come springtime.
Well, oxalic acid could be used with honey on or with open brood if you're doing a vapor. If you're doing dribbling now, they don't recommend it to be dribbled on honey or to be dribbled on open brood.
Right, I'm going to definitely do the vaporizing.
Yeah. It's the cheapest thing out there that is basically 100%.
Yeah, my hive has flown pretty good though with the bees. My only thing is I have a few ants, but I've been watching the bees. They take care of them quickly.
Yeah, which hive, they're going to take care of most pests if the hive gets up. But if you're not going all the way down the brood chamber, keep going down there and checking your brood. Look for spotty brood, and then look for, when you walk your bee yard, look in the grass. Look for bees that's hopping or crawling. That's going to be one of the first indication you're going to see. Because, if you got a hive and it's hygienic, they're going to start pulling out bees that got the mites on them or got, deformed wing. They're going to pull them out.
I think I'm in a good area. I haven't really seen anybody near me that has bees,
Yeah. Well, they fly for a long ways. A truck can go down the road hauling bees and mites will fly out of it.
So Don, what's your best defense these days against small hive beetles?
Well, personally, I let fire ants build or mounds all right through my bee yard. Anything that's protein hits the ground, the fire ants will eat it. I've got my hives under pine thickets, real thick pine thickets. I got them under some oak trees. I got some in the open. I've got them in several different areas right here on this property. So as the sun moves over, we have shade most of the day, either in the front or in the back or at the side. And I don't have any problem with basically on the small hive beetles. The nukes are the weakest thing that we have. And, they'll show up in there, 4 or 5, in the corners.
What
I've
did you?
only noticed a couple in one of my hives, so I'm not too concerned yet. I think it's a pretty strong hive, so I think they'll keep them at bay.
Well, when you open the hive up, if you're looking from if you go at the top and you got a honey super on there, if you got a bad infestation, you're going to see them right on the top bars on a honey super. But if you're in the brood chamber, at the frame rest where the frames separate at the sides there, right where the frame rest is, that's where you're going to notice them, or at the bottom corners of your hive in the brood chamber. That's where you're going to see them most likely.
Yeah, I did. I opened when I pulled the inner cover off. They were at the top, right by where the frame rests were. There was, 2 or 3 maybe, and I squashed one of them. So there's a third less probably in there now.
I don't run inner covers personally. I find out anybody that's run them, and I've learned in the past, inner cover is going to end up, you're going to have ants, roaches, and small hive beetles up there. I run lids, my telescoping lids, I run them right on the top, or I run a hive top feeder with a cover, telescoping cover. I done away with inner covers 40 years ago.
Are you drilling holes in the top chambers to get ventilation in there?
Nope, I drill a hole, either a 3/4 or a 1-inch hole underneath each handhold in the front of the beehive, all the way up. And I have a hive top feeder, which is a double compartment, and it's got screen on there. If I have a heat problem, I just lift the telescoping lid up, slide it back, and now you've got positive ventilation from the bottom board all the way up, just like a chimney effect. And in the wintertime, I leave the screens on. If there's too much ventilation there, the bees will propolize them shut.
What's your opinion?
You can have too little of ventilation, but you can't have too much.
Yeah, I found the too little ventilation out over the winter, as we discussed earlier tonight, with losing a hive.
Right. That's where you lose it. You get a lot of condensation in there. And, if you're wrapping a hive and you've got it too tight, you're going to get moisture condensation in there.
What's your opinion on the migratory covers?
Well, they're fine. I mean, I used to use them when I moved my bees, but the only reason people use migratory covers is they're going to be able to get say, 3 inches between hives. That's basically all it is. Migratory covers, they just jam those boxes up. I don't move my hives. If I move them, it ain't but 20 at a time, maybe, or 30 at a time. And it'd be pollinating on, an organic farm. But as far as lasting or service, I like a telescoping cover. It seems to hold flat a lot longer than the migratory.
So I guess the telescoping provides more protection for them then, right?
Well, I don't know the protection, whether you use a migratory or a telescoping, they're going to seal it down. Once it's sealed down, there's nothing getting in and getting out. The only thing that I'm probably doing different than maybe what you're doing is I do not put metal on none of my beehives on the lids. I've done away with that many, many years ago.
I was just wondering about the migratory because The guy at the bee place today, he was doing a class and he was talking about the migratory covers. And I use the telescoping. I just was wondering about the migratory.
What was his opinion on it? It's quicker, it's faster. Is that what his idea was?
Pretty much, and he likes them,
Well, the whole thing, migratory covers, they're kind of hard to stay, flat. They'll warp up.
Yeah, he was just telling all that, but he was talking about they're like half the price of the telescoping covers. And
Well, I don't know about that. I build all my own stuff, so cost is not a thing. Function is what I'm looking at. And when I did move a bunch of bees, I would use two, I think it was 8-inch boards, and we trimmed one down, and then we put an 1.5-inch board over the top, and that sealed the crack. And then you got to run a board on each side to keep them from buckling up.
did you ever try dipping your hive boxes in melted wax and that stuff?
Well, when you do that, you're going to cause a moisture problem because wood has to actually wick away from the moisture. That's what it does. And when you seal it, I mean, all you're doing is creating a moisture problem. And, I can't see the point of it. It's not going to extend life of it any. I got boxes out there, and I got some lids and stuff that's 20, 25 years old, painted on one side.
Because I seen a couple of commercial guys on Facebook. They were raving about it.
There's a lot of people who rave a lot of stuff. Are they in the business to sell you something? You have to try it out yourself and see what your experience is. All I'm saying is what my experience is. I would rather have a telescoping lid. It seems to stay flatter, and it's what I prefer. I went both ways. I think a migratory lid is, if you're building your stuff yourself anyhow, it's a lot easier to build.
Hey Don, I have a question for you.
All right.
All right, I did a cutout here. I guess it was about 2 weeks ago, probably 3 weeks ago. It was underneath a trailer house. The guy said that hive had been there for. He bought the house 10 years ago, and the hive was there. And then over the past couple of years, he's noticed that it's gotten pretty aggressive. Well, I went in and did the cutout, and of course it was a huge cutout. And those bees, it's hard for me to work them. I was out there in my bee suit and got stung 5 times through my bee suit. So I'm thinking I'm going to need to requeen them, and I have several hives that are they're super gentle hives. So kind of what my thought is, and you'll see if you agree with this. I'm just going to pull a frame of eggs and larvae brood and stick it in there, and then I was thinking probably go in about a week and then kill all the rest of the queen cells on the other frames, and then just let the queen cells on that frame requeen that hive. Would that work?
That would work, but if you got a hive that's been there that long, the queens themselves, I would save them and put them, you got good stock there. They've overwintered, and a lot of times when you're doing cutouts, you're looking at black-looking comb. It's been there a long time. And,
sure. And this was
a lot of pesticiding seems to cause bees to be a little more aggressive. I've seen where you take bees just like that, put them all on new foundation, and within 3 weeks, they seem to be just real gentle.
Okay. Yeah, these are
queen in a nuke box, and if you're going to let them make a queen, or just take a frame from one of your gentle hives and put it in there. But what I would do is take the queen out first, wait about 4 to 5 days, then add a frame of brood. That way, the stuff that you put in there, they're going to have fresh eggs, and they're going to have more of a better chance to get them gentle ones, rather than trying to make something off of what you cut out.
Yeah, and the guy said that they've been there for 10 years and they've been real gentle, and then he said the past 2 years. So I don't know, and being in Texas, we do have Africanized bees in the area. I don't know, like if a African hive went and took them over and made them more aggressive. like I said, the guy's dealt with them and he's lived with them for a long time, and then all of a sudden he's like, I'm done. I want them out of here. So
I
I don't
think
know.
if you had Africanized bees, you'd have got stung more than 5 times. 'Cause
Well,
I
that's
still,
how many of them got through my suit.
well, if you got Africanized bees over there and you're working on them, from what people tell me, I got a fellow I sell queens in Brownsville, and he says they will cover up his mask and his hands, everything else.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think you're going to be up underneath a place cutting bees out if you had Africanized bees. They'd have you covered up.
Okay.
I would think you just got bees that got old comb in there. And another thing that could have set them off is you could have some lizards up under there. I've had hives right out here. You could set your chin on there. It'd be very gentle. And the very next day you go out there, if there's one of them little lizards or geckos, there's 2 or 3 types we got here. If they're up underneath the bottom board, they're sitting there picking off bees, it gets that hive to be very aggressive. Once the lizard's gone, they're calm, they're fine.
Sure. Yeah, and like right now I can take the top off of the hive and they just shoot out of there. Versus my other hives, they'll just, they're just real calm and they don't really even bother that I'm there.
Yeah. Well, you have to play, according to what you got there. If you feel that they're too aggressive, I'd definitely pull the queen out, put a frame from your gentle hive, and you'll go from there.
Sure. Okay. Yeah, I'll try that and just kind of see what happens, and I'll keep the old queen and kind of keep her in a nuke box by herself and see maybe she can calm down.
A situation like that, I don't like to get rid of those queens that's gone through 1 or 2 years or more. And people have watched my videos, they've been here, and I hear this all the time. Those bees know me, so they're not going to sting me. And I run across an opportunity to where I could do a cutout. And I normally don't do cutouts. But I had 2 students that wanted to learn how to do a cutout. And this house had those bees in it for 15 years. There was one huge swarm in the kitchen area, and there was another one in the living room area. So there was basically 2 hives there. Never seen that house before. They've been in there 15 years. If you look at the video, I posted it on YouTube, where one of my students, he had his bee suit on, and I worked just like I normally do. And I got maybe 2 or 3 stings in the fingers where I had picked up a bee, got it under, where I was cutting it out and that. But I don't believe bees get to know you. It's the way you handle bees or the genetics of the bees.
Hi, Don. How's it going?
Oh, pretty good.
Good, good. This is Steve from Maryland.
How you doing?
Good, good. I'm going to ask you a quick question, and then I'm going to get off so other people can get on. I see people are waiting around to talk to you. What do you think about bottom hiving?
Bottom hiving.
So
that's a new one on me.
So instead of putting supers always on the top, if you're running everything the same, you can put them on the bottom. So as you add another super, you start from the bottom up. You add from the bottom up.
Well, that's basically like checkerboarding, or when you're re-supering up a hive. I've done that in the past, and it's to get the honey super drawn out a lot faster. So if you have a hive and you pull the super off, you stick another super under it with new foundation and put the one that's drawn out or almost full on top of it. Then the bees have to go through it to bring the honey up to it. Now you can do the same thing by expanding your brood chamber, by doing it going down into the brood chamber. But I don't run it that way because all my hives, I use a 1-inch staple because I use air guns, and my bottom board is stapled to the hive body. And that way, if I have to move them, my bottom board is not falling off.
Gotcha. Hey, thanks a lot. I'm going to get off so other people can talk to you.
Okay, if you got more questions, feel free. I'm here to help anybody that wants to help.
You got a whole lot of people want to talk to you.
Okay.
Yeah, unfortunately, this thing apparently only holds 10 people at once.
Well, the first ones there get me, don't they?
All right.
But no matter, what your question is, whether you don't think it's important, I'm willing to answer it if I can. I'm here to try to help anybody that I can.
Well, I have a question about raising a queen.
Okay.
Being in my area, I mean, I'm not sure if there's beehives around that stuff for the mating flights or whatever they call it for the drones.
Right.
Now, if I have my own queen and she's unmated, how will she mate?
She'll have to mate with whatever's there.
She'll mate with her own drones?
Well, that's what's caused inbreeding. And when people have one or two hives and they don't want to spend $1 or $2 to go out and get new genetics,
Clicked on it.
they may end up getting
You gotta click on Don.
No.
You gotta click on Don to look at his.
Okay.
There you go. There you go. You're not muted. You're on.
Don,
Go ahead, Dave.
hey,
I missed what you said.
Somebody else is talking at the same time, so nothing came through. Dean, you got your microphone on? No, you must have it off. I don't hear you. Greg's got his on now. Go ahead, Greg.
okay, well, can you hear me, Don?
I hear you now. Go ahead.
Hey, I got a 10 frame and I put package bees in it. And last week you said, I asked you about how to put those in the nukes. And I checked them yesterday. What I thought I would do was just keep an eye on them until they made queen cells. Is that the right step to do to pull them out and put them in nukes?
You put a package in a 10 frame hive to start with.
Yes.
Your best bet, if you want to get queen cells, is to put the package in the nuke to start with. That way you have condensed heat there, and they're going to make cells much, much faster. Or
Okay.
if you put the package in the nuke, and you was going to build it up for a 10 frame, after it covers all 5 frames and it's getting drawn out good, then put them in a 10 frame.
Well, I understand that, but what I was going to do is just put it into 10 frame. That's what I was used to. And
Yeah.
then talking with you last week, I figured I want to start doing nukes. So my question is, I guess, is if I take that 10 frame deep and make it packed full of bees and everything, they should give me queen cells, correct?
Right.
Okay, so
you're going to have to crowd them. So you're going to have to get the populations up, or you're going to have to get them crowded. And you can get them crowded by feeding them. Just put the feed to them constantly.
all right. So how often? Right now, every frame is packed full of brood and honey up around the top, just beautiful white stuff, all but one frame. So how often should I look in there for the queen cells?
I would go every 14 days. You could go every 12 days if you want, but from the time that you inspect all the way down and you don't see no queen cells, if you wait 16 days, you're going to have a queen cell that is hatched out. So if you go there in 14 days, you're basically going to have ripe queen cells. I try to teach my students to go in 12 days because that gives you a little leeway. Once they're sealed and they start to get a little bit brown looking, then you can cut them out and cut out a plug around them an inch wider than the cell. One frame usually produces 10 to 15 cells.
Well, here's my problem with that. I got plastic foundation. So I was hoping to just take the whole frame and put it in a nuke box once they have a cell or two on them.
All right, you can still make queen cells. When they do that, what you have to do then is once you got queen cells that are sealed, put them either in a queen castle or put one frame in a nuke box with a solid bottom with a 3/4 hole, and you need to go in there. Once you got queen cells in there, go in there about 4 times a day, every 2 hours, and when the first one hatches, take that frame, move it to another box, and then replace that frame with honey, and make sure the virgin queen is on that frame that you just put back in. Because if you wait too long, then the first queen out, she's going to go around and start cutting cells on you. But it can be done. It's just a little more work.
Okay. Here's something I don't know much about. That's the size of the cells. You use like a 4.9, is that correct?
I use 4.9. It's a smaller bee. They have less mites. You don't have to treat at all for trachea mites because the trachea mite has stayed the same over time. But when you reduce the size of your actual bee to almost half, the trachea is half the size. So it's impossible to have trachea mites if you are running 4.9. And then, Dean, getting back to your plastic question, the thing that I would do is buy you a bunch of frames, or you can make frames. And when you pull a frame out to put it in a queen castle or a nuke, just drop an empty frame back in there. No foundation, no nothing. And what's going to happen is they're going to draw good foundation for you.
Okay, that sounds good.
Save you some money, and you can make some good queen cells.
Okay, on one of your boxes and one of your videos, I noticed you're talking about breeder queen. What exactly are those?
Breeder queens are going to be a line that has got a good, like if you're buying, say, Russian, and you want to do Russian, you want to stay with just one line if you're going to breed from it. I like to mix, and you're going to have to mix the lines that you want. For me, I don't run purebred Russian here because they're too aggressive, and I have too many women and kids that come here. So I run a little bit of Italian, I run a little Carniolan, and I run a little Caucasian, and about every 4 years I'll bring a little bit of Russian in. Now your Caucasian, a lot of beekeepers don't like it. They make a lot of propolis, but the propolis is medicine to the hive, and you've got to take the good with the bad. The Italian bees will build up really good, but they don't overwinter good. They eat themselves out of house and home. So I get a lot of feral stock, so I breed and I mix my stock. I want a stock that is gentle. I want a stock that lives through the winter. I want a stock that you can work.
Okay, right now, that's probably my last question. I'm sure I'll come up with something, but I really appreciate you.
I'll be on here every week, so you can ask questions. If I don't have the answer, I'll let you know I don't have the answer. I've probably been down the road making as many mistakes as a lot of people, and I'm trying to keep people from making the same ones that I have.
So if I want to order the plans to do the top feeder,
okay.
How long will that take once I send that through PayPal?
Well, you download it right off the web page. I have one of my students that takes care of it, and one of my old students used to take care of it, and there's a link on there or something. Once you pay, there's a downloadable link where you can download the plans right then.
Okay. You can tell I got some age on me, so I'm not real computer smart, but I got a son-in-law.
Well, I'm not computer smart at all, and it's been 2 to 3 months to try to get this thing to where it up and runs to where I can at least share a little information.
Thanks, Don.
Okay. Does anybody else got questions? Just speak ahead there. Go ahead, Greg. Turn your microphone on so we can hear you. No microphone? If you go to the top of the chat up there in the window, there's a thing that says microphone and camera at the top there. and just click on the microphone and we can hear you. You got your camera on.
Jeremiah's right there.
Hey, Don.
Yeah.
Guy that just came on, that Jeremiah Schaefer.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
He's my son. He lives way up north Ohio, and he's I turned him on to bees this year, so
Good.
he may have some questions for you too.
Okay. Don't be bashful.
Hey, Don, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay, first, starting with a little bit of wax strip. I just did that, and they're taken to it like candy.
Yeah.
But my question is, I do have plastic frames. I'm slowly, checkboarding those out when I get the finances. But I have one frame. It seems like they tried to make the comb cross comb to the other foundation. Do I just leave that sit there and let them fix it, or do I just try and keep removing it?
You're going to have to take it and remove that. If it's got a lot of brood in it, I would set up some nuke boxes and put it in there and let the brood hatch out. Whether it's just a drone comb or what, let it hatch out.
Okay.
A lot of times you get cross comb like that when you're running spacers in the brood chamber. 10 frame hive with 9 frame spacers.
This is actually in a nuke box.
On a nuke box?
Yeah.
Well, if you started with a nuke box with starter strips, the spacing is too wide. If you had 2 frames in there that's drawn out and then put a frame in there with a starter strip, they're going to draw straight.
Well, I just have the one frame with the starter strip to see how it do. The rest of them are they're wood with plastic foundation. But for some reason, this one frame, they like to try and do cross brood on it for some reason.
Well, the bees, they got a mind of their own, so they're only going to do what they want to do. You can kind of give them a start, hope to do the best, but a lot of times you have to cut stuff off.
Okay, I was doing that, but I saw someone say just let it be. They usually fix themselves, and
They don't fix themselves. They just get worse. And when it gets so bad, if you talk to beekeepers out there, will tell you the truth. If you got a bunch of cross combing there, especially in 9 frames in a 10 frame box, it gets to the point you can't even pull frames out. So you want to keep your hive to where you can manipulate frames easily.
okay, so you suggest I just take it out, clean it, and put new wax on it and throw it back in?
If it's got brood on it, I would set it in another box and let it hatch out. But if you want to straighten it up, get you a long bread knife and get it on one side, or if you got electric hot knife for uncapping, just get the knife hot and just cut one side off. Put it back, go back 2 weeks, cut the other side. That'll straighten it up a lot of times.
Okay.
Go ahead, you're on. You're up, Brooke.
Can you guys hear me this time?
Oh, we hear you.
Wow, I did it.
There you go.
So we're going to do a split. We're going to do 2 splits. And is it better to wait, because we're going to order our queens from you, to wait until we get our queens from you and then do the split when we get our queens?
If you got 2 hives, why don't you raise your own queens?
I'm not ready for that.
Yeah,
I don't think.
The bees will teach you as you go. Just, if you've listened to us tonight, basically let the hive in a single story and let them get crowded. Go in there every 14 days and look for queen cells. They'll look like a peanut hanging on the side of the frame.
Yeah.
You can have anywhere from 1 to 10, 15.
Isn't it good, though, to get different queens so
Well,
you don't...
Yes and no, but how long have you kept bees?
This is our first hive. We've had them for about 36 days.
You need to learn. You need to make mistakes. You need to find out what's going to work, what's not going to work. You don't want to buy somebody else's fix for your problems. You're going to have to experiment and feel your way through it. The nice thing is you can jump on here and you can get questions asked, but I'll gladly sell you queens. But I think what you need to do is have boxes ready, and if you got queen cells, make a split. That learning is invaluable.
Okay, so don't split until we get a queen cell and just
Wait till you get a queen cell. Now, if you got 1 or 2 hives, you need to build you some nuke boxes. And
we've ordered 2 nuke boxes.
You have a table saw?
Yes.
Well, then you should be making some stuff. All you're going to do is make bee supply houses rich. You don't have to have fancy wood. You can go to wherever they're building houses and get some 3/4 plywood and just make butt joints. You don't have to rabbet the joints down to make them look fancy. A butt joint, put a little piece of wood down 3/4 on one end. That gives you a frame rest. The boxes are sufficient. They'll work.
I may try it, but it's a local company here, and they're actually the prices for just buying the wood and then the prices for the nuke boxes here it really isn't that bad.
Okay, well, the thing to do is get a couple nuke boxes and be ready to make splits.
I had another question. Have you ever heard of the pseudo scorpions? I had a couple of these bugs and I was squashing them, and I looked them up and I heard they were good, but I figure don't always trust everything you hear on the internet.
There's a lot of things that people say is good that I don't agree is good. There's a lot of good snakes out there, but personally, I don't like any snake that runs. I don't like any spider. I worked in South Georgia. I worked in North Georgia on bees. And in South Georgia, it's common to lift up a lid and have a black widow in the palm of your hand, or have a rattlesnake go across your feet. Some people like them. I just don't like them.
Yeah.
But, if it's a scorpion in any type of thing, I think I would stay away from it.
No, I squashed it. It's not really a scorpion. It's just it's a bug. It eats aphids, I guess.
Yeah.
And mites. Anyways, I didn't know what it was, so I squashed them.
Okay. But your biggest thing is to try to experiment with those nukes and try to get some queen cells and go from there. It's not hard.
I've got a I'll try it, and hopefully if it doesn't work, at least I'll learn something. But
the worst thing is going to happen is they will make a swarm if you don't get in there every 14 days. And if you got trees anywhere around your beehive, a lot of times the swarm is going to come out and they'll be within 10 to 25 feet of the beehive. A lot of times they're on a low branch, and you can take a broomstick and knock them out of the branch and just set your box underneath there, and you've got another hive going.
Yeah. We've got some old honeycombs and frames, and it's all full of honey, but it was stored in a garage, and the mice got in there. And so some of the frames are fine, but others are chewed on. Well, I didn't know what to do with it, so I put it out there for the bees to rob, and they're having a good time with it. I was just wondering if you think that's...
Well, the honey, if you have no disease in the boxes, the honey is probably usable. As far as using a comb to put bees in, I would stay clear of that. I've found anytime you have a stored beehive, you've got mice in there, and if they go peeing or urinating around in that box, it's hard to keep bees in that box again. The best thing you're going to have to do is, if you got peach trees around there or pine trees, take the leaves from the pine tree or the needles or a branch that's got peach leaves on it and rub the inside of that box real good, and that'll mask down the smell of that mouse, and sometimes they'll accept the box.
Yeah, it doesn't really smell. I mean, they're just in there enough just to chew it up some, and I just was like, ugh,
Did you find any mouse droppings in there?
Yeah, there was some.
That's the thing there that repel the bees. Now you can let all that honey out there, let the bees clean it up, take it off what they want, cut all that wax out. I wouldn't suggest using the old wax. I'd put new.
No,
But take a 5-gallon bucket, put a half a cup of bleach in there, stand the frames up in the bucket, leave them in there for about 10 to 15 minutes, turn them over, and that'll sterilize the other side. And the frames will be nice and clean. Buy some wax and put it in there, and you'll be good to go.
all right, cool. That
Frames,
sounds-
even if you have wax moth damage, and wax moth damage, even 3 and 4 weeks with wax moth, they will actually burrow holes in the frames and eat up that wood. Those, I just take a brush, it's a steel brush, and I brush them really good, and then I bleach them for 10 minutes, and they look a little rough, but the bees will accept them and they'll work them.
Okay. I got another question about the making a new from a queen cell. So if wherever the queen cell is on, if I just take that entire frame and stick it
Right.
in a new one, can I just do that?
You can do that, but you have to find which frame the queen is on. And you want to leave her in the original box. And when you take the frame that's got the queen cells, put it in that new box and get one more frame of bees and shake it. And look at the bees that you want to get the youngest bees, and they're going to be the ones that look a little dusty. They won't have that shiny look. They'll just look a little fuzzy looking or dusty. Shake another frame of bees with the frame that has the cells. And then go back and double check your hive, make sure the queen is still there, put a new frame or two in that box, and then your box will be good. The one that you put the queen cell in, put a little screen over the opening and keep it screened up for at least 24 hours.
Okay.
You can move it anywhere from 2 foot to 20 foot, wherever you want.
Okay. So 24 hours?
24 hours, if you got enough honey on there, I'd leave them for 2 to 3 days even. 3 days wouldn't hurt. What you have to do is reprogram the bees. If you move them, and the bees, the old bees, the field bees, are the ones going to fly back to the parent hive. So the new bees, they haven't been imprinted where they live. So by keeping them for 2 to 3 days, they're cooped up with a screen on there. They can breathe. When they come out, they'll orient to that box. I don't move my frames down the road 2 miles or 10 miles or whatever. I got 6 acres here, and I might move them 5 foot or 2 foot, and I'll screen them up and just move them up 5 foot or 10 foot one way or the other and set up another row. But you'll have to screen them.
We have a whole field behind us, but we're just keeping them up by the house, and so.
Well, if you're keeping them up by your house, be sure to put you a salt block out in the back there.
Yeah, I watched that video, so they don't bother us. And
well, if you just got bees, you're probably not familiar, but if you go outside right now, it's hot, and if you're sweating, those bees are going to land on you. They're going to crawl around. They're going to tickle, and if people are not used to it, they think you're going to sting them. All they're trying to do is suck salt water off of you. So if you keep a salt block out there, it'll have less bees on you when you're sweating.
all right, I'll have to stick one of those out there. I don't mind them, but I know not everyone has a.
Well, if bees are going to sting you, they're normally going to, if you're in their flight path, they're going to bump into you. If you're annoying them or if they're aggressive, they're not going to buzz you. They're going to fly right in and they're going to sting you. The majority of the time, they're just landing on you to get that salt off you. They use the salt to process honey.
I've got a question. You might not. It's an odd question. You may not know the answer. So I'm wondering if the bees get tangled in my hair because they like the smell of it, or they're just mad and they're like, getting in my hair.
Basically, when women work a beehive, they should wear a ponytail. Pull it back pretty tight. Get you a baseball hat or one of those safari hats.
Yeah, I always wear a baseball cap, and I put it up in a bun now, but they just love my hair.
Well, are you using hairspray? If you're using hairspray or scented shampoo, they might come in it, but the majority of the time they're getting in your hair and they're just getting tangled. And then you reach up, to flick them out, you probably mash them.
Okay.
Most of the time, if you get them in your hair, or guys that have beards, they get them in their beard, they get all frustrated. If you just shake your head a little bit, the bees will fly out.
Yeah, I was wondering if they didn't like my hair or if they loved my hair, and that's why I kept getting them tangled.
Well, they're running an obstacle course.
Yeah. Let's see, my husband has a question.
Okay, go ahead.
Well, here.
Oh. All right. So my question is with all that honey that we acquired and our box is getting honey bound, is that, I guess I'm saying, is when do we add our honey supers for them to put it in there?
How many
right
hives?
Right now we just have 2 deeps on 1 hive.
Are you trying to make a bunch of honey?
Well, we got that honey. I think she just asked you about it. We got those honey supers from a friend of mine.
Mm-hmm.
And what happened was her husband passed away, and she gave the bees away to her neighbor, but all the honey was still in her basement. I went over there to pick up a forge, and she said I could have it if I wanted it. So we put it out there for the bees to rob, and they're loving it. Have been for about a week and a half now. And I'm just worried about them getting honey bound and I guess putting it in the brood pattern, or something like that, to where we won't have room for the honey.
They will use the honey to make brood, and the excess they're going to store. If the honey is good, I mean, you could actually use it, eat it. There's nothing really wrong with it. But if you don't build your own equipment, you need to put a honey super on there, give them enough room, or just leave them get honey bound and make queen cells. But then you still come back, you need more equipment.
Well, we want them to make queen cells because we're going to make those 2 splits.
Okay.
So we just ordered 2 nukes. Okay. So we're going to split.
Well, the nukes is just a temporary thing now. You understand that. The nukes will be good unless you're going to run 5-frame nukes, and you're going to do the same thing as you would a hive. You're going to have to put supers on that 5-frame nuke. You put a deep nuke box there. You can put 2 or 3 5-frame medium on top of that and pull honey off of it. And
well,
it's just another way to make honey.
Yeah, we ordered pretty much the same as our 10-frame. So we ordered, the bottom board and the telescoping top, and 2 deeps and 2 mediums per hive, per 5-frame hive, I guess. I shouldn't have called it a nuke, I guess, but 5-frame hive, because we wanted to try that since we have a 10-frame.
Designates a nuke for you. So there's ladies that come up here that run 5-frame boxes, and you can just put as many supers on as you want. Now, a lot of them will run 2 deeps, then run 2 mediums. And if you got a deep frame there and it's all honey, if you don't have a queen an extractor, you could basically take it in the house and scrape it off, and then let it strain through a strainer and put it in jars. Now, the honey that they're robbing out there, you should be recuperating all that wax out there. Save it and put it through some boiling water, and then you can use it for candles or make starter strips and stuff out of it.
Okay. Oh, my wife's got another question here. Okay. Hang on just a second.
So we got package bees, and they came treated. When do we do a treatment for mites?
They came treated. Where did you get the package from?
Dakota Bees. It's a place down here about 3 hours from us.
Well, package bees, I don't know if they pulled something over on here or what, but you don't treat a package bees. I mean, I've heard of people dusting them down with powder sugar, but I would assume that the bees are not treated. So you're going to have to do some type of treatment within a month to 6 weeks. You can do a mineral oil treatment. There's a lot of little things you can do yourself to help with the mites. But don't assume when someone says the bees are treated.
Okay, so if I do the mineral oils now, I can put that in their feed.
No, you don't put mineral oil on the feed. You can put it on
Essential
paper
oils.
towel. The what?
The
Essential oils?
Yeah.
Yeah, essential oils. You can put that in the feed. You can use wintergreen. You can use spearmint. A little bit of lemongrass. You actually build up a honeybee healthy type formula. It's basically the same thing. It's, you've got to figure out your ratios. That's why I'm doing these ebooks on these ratios. But mineral oil is used in a fogger or it's used on paper towels. If you don't have a lot of hives and you don't want to buy a fogger, you just sprinkle a little bit or just squirt a little bit on a paper towel and lay it on top of your top bars. And it'll just kind of saturate the thing. It won't get dripping wet. You put maybe a half a teaspoon just on it, and it's going to work its way out all the way across that paper towel. The bees will walk it. It coats the bees. It suffocates the mites. They slowly fall off and die because they have to breathe through their exoskeleton.
Okay.
It's the cheapest way to treat them without getting into high dollars and that. The next step up is go to Lowe's and buy a bug killer and put mineral oil on that, and you can fog them with a propane fogger. It's effective 50 to 60%, It's better than nothing.
Okay. What do you think about the mite away strips?
I don't want to use them myself.
No.
Read the directions. If you got to get that much protection for you think it's going to do the bees any good?
Right.
You want to eat that honey.
Right.
When somebody tells you to wear a respirator, gloves, don't breathe this, don't do this, and it can't be much good for the bees.
So how often do you do the mineral oil?
If you do mineral oil every 3 weeks with a fogger, you're going to get a 50 to 60% mite kill. It just depends what your ratio is that you want. All bees are going to have mites. There's no such thing as mite-free bees, so
Right.
You're going to have to do some type of a treatment.
Okay.
Main thing is keep your hive as strong as you possibly can, and that's going to take care of a lot of your problems, especially hive beetles. The strength of the hive is up, you don't have that beetle problem.
We don't have any hive beetles, which I'm surprised.
Well, there's certain areas that the clay surface or the composition of the dirt itself, the beetles don't reproduce. They have to pupate and reproduce in the ground. Then they come out and fly, and then they go into a hive, and then they start the cycle over again. Now, the east side of North Carolina, I've got a couple students over there, and it's marshy land. It's got a lot of salt in the dirt itself. So the hive beetle don't reproduce over there. It's very seldom that you find one. It's usually beekeepers driving down the road, and these beetles are flying off these trucks and accumulating in people's hives.
I'm in Colorado.
Well, I don't know what your composition of your ground is. I've talked to a beekeeper over there, which is up in Denver, and he has very little because he said he's got the elevation or something.
Yeah, it's really high elevation.
Clear across is different, Lorraine, if you got a question, go ahead and jump in there and ask a question.
Hey, Don, I have a question.
Okay.
Hey, I moved my bees 3 days ago. I got them netted in right now. Do I still need to throw grass in front of them to let them go, or can I just unleash them?
Well, I personally don't put grass in my hive. I mean, people that tell you put grass in there, first of all, when you put grass in a hive, if it stays in there, you're going to get a fungal problem. I just use a staple gun with screen, and I screen them up and I move them.
All right.
And then, getting back to the grass situation, when I work hives, I always have an extra box I set my lids on or my supers. I never set them on the ground. I don't want no grass to be on the bottom or anywhere on that hive. Because if you put that back on the hive and you get a blade of grass in there, you're going to create a fungal problem.
All right. I'll just unleash them then.
Yeah, I'd do it. Put them to work.
Yeah, I had 2 queen cells, and I split. It was a weaker hive. I was surprised it decided to swarm. They were both low, and I split the 2. They were each on 2 different frames, and I threw them each in a nuke box I had ready and put a bunch of bees covering her and put her in there. It's been in there for 2 days, so
the queen should have hatched out right now then. Where do you live?
Salina, Ohio. I guess just south of where you used to live.
Oh. You just got to be careful of the nights. We was talking about temperature drops. You have to make sure you have enough bees in there to cover that cell. The brood, they're not going to worry about brood. They're going to cover up that queen cell. So if you put a big frame of brood in there with a queen cell and the temperature drops down 55 or in that temperature range, you're going to get some chill brood. That's the thing you have to watch out for.
Okay. Yeah, I put enough for all of them, but they were on the same frame, and then I just put a frame of honey with them and put them in there and let them go. So
they should be good to go. Go back in there and check, and when you see the queen is back and she's starting to lay, go to another hive it's pretty strong and put a frame of brood that's hatching. And that you could actually see the caps coming off and the new bees coming out. Shake all the bees off and put that frame in. That boosts it up. It's like putting a 2-pound or a 3-pound package in. That gets a nuke up and running faster than you believe.
Perfect. You being around this area, how long can I keep splitting up here?
I used to split until the goldenrod was my key. Goldenrod some years blooms up into October. Now, if you got the drones at the end of September, you should be pretty safe.
Excellent. All right. I'll just keep splitting then. I started with 2. I'm up to 5. I caught a wild swarm today. And they're actually real dark.
10 more boxes.
Huh?
You better build 10 more boxes. Because if you just use
I got them right. I'm building frames right now as I'm speaking to you. The B-man way.
What's that there I see? Plastic?
No, that's all wax.
The wax? Oh,
yep.
Okay.
Doing the fishing string. Now, can I spin them pretty good if I ever want to take honey off with that fishing string and bobby pin way?
Well, are you using a motorized extractor or are you using a hand crank?
Brand new, so I don't have either one. So
okay, well, you can use a kitchen spoon. I mean, I did a couple on how to do honey on the cheap. I have taken natural drawed comb, which I use a starter strip, a 2-inch starter strip, and let them draw it all the way down, make honey, put them in an extractor, and sling it out with no fishing line to prove a point. It's basically take your time, turn it one way, then reverse it and go the other way. The whole idea is to keep that frame balanced on the one side that it doesn't get heavier than the other. Because if one side gets heavier, it's going to pull that way and it's going to pull out of the frame. But if it's equal, pull out a little on each side, you can spin it till it's bone dry.
right. That's how I'll
Bee
do it.
supply houses don't like when I talk about stuff like this because 99% of the stuff that's in that book you don't need.
I'm raising bees, and it's all through you, so I
Well,
appreciate
thank
it.
you. My methods do work. I have people from Canada. I got people from just about everywhere, and they say they work. I mean, I've lived in the north. I've lived in the south, and beekeeping is beekeeping. If you use simple practices, it'll work.
I've got another question.
Okay.
Why no screen bottom board? Our
Why
hive,
not?
yeah.
Well, I use common sense. When I tell you something, it's because it's common sense. People don't think about it. But go out tomorrow morning early, daybreak, walk in your front yard, then look down at your feet. I'll guarantee you they're soaking wet. And then when the sun hits that wet grass, where do you think that moisture is going to go?
Up.
Up in the beehive. Right?
Right.
Now you got a moisture and then pretty soon a fungal problem. Now the next thing, people that sell these things or love them, they say, I have this little insert that you can put in there. Now what you do is you cause an additional problem. You isolate the area that the bees can't clean now. They have to maintain that bottom. You create a space for hive beetles, wax moth, larvae, and stuff like that where the bees can't get to it. And you have spiders and ants and stuff get up in there. A screen bottom board is not the way to go. If you believe in them, do them, and let me know how they work out.
No,
I went down that road.
the first hive we have is the 10 frame hive. It has a screen bottom board, so like if we can, if they're, I'd like to fix it if they're bad.
Well, you're getting my opinion. I tried them, and I seen that for what I'm doing, they don't work. You get moisture, you get fungal problems, you get spotty brood. If the temperature falls on you in the summertime, you get draft coming up there. And if you're raising bees or queens or trying to make nukes up, you've got a lot of chill brood.
Yeah.
Think about the wild out in the forest. They don't have metal in those trees. They don't have screen bottom boards. There's no queen excluders. Those bees live good in the woods.
So if I take the screen out and just put a piece of plywood on there?
Yeah, you probably could put a piece of plywood. It has to go from one side of the hive to the other. Don't leave no gaps. If there's gaps, paint it good to seal all your cracks up. You don't want places for anything to get in to live.
Okay. I think I'll do that because we have, Colorado weather. It's crazy weather. Hot one day, raining one day, snowing the next day. You just never know.
Well, we're having strange weather here. I think our weather is 2 months or 2.5 months ahead of what it's supposed to be. We're already having summer weather. Our asters and some of our fall plants are already blooming, and they're not supposed to be blooming for, at least 2 months.
We had rain every day the month of May.
Yeah. Well, see, on rainy years, sometimes you don't make any honey. If you make honey, it'll ferment because there's so much moisture content. The bees can't evaporate it out.
Don, I have another question.
Okay.
I caught a wild swarm today, and the guy called me and said there's still like a softball-sized ball in the tree of bees. I probably got 8 pounds of bees off that. It was a big swarm. Should I go back and get that softball size tomorrow morning?
What's happening is you probably have the pheromone from the queen on the branch. Now, when you got that swarm out, did you go through it or you just dumped it in a box?
Just dumped into the box, and once I got it in the box on a white sheet, everybody ran into the box.
You didn't look for other queens? You only found one queen, or didn't you
I didn't
look?
find any queen. I didn't look. It's too
Okay.
crowded.
Well, if you look at some of the videos, I've had many students here and I've showed them. We have seen as many as 30 queens in one swarm. Now, if common sense is, out there, nature is not going to produce one queen. Contrary to what a lot of people will tell you, those swarms are going to have anywhere from 2 to 10 or 15. Average is about 10 to 12. And the reason nature's doing that is because of predators. If a bird, if a wasp or something gets that queen, there's another one to make it back. Now, the queen is not going to kill the other queen until she gets into the box. That's when they take possession of that hive. It's just like a house. You can't have one woman run a house. You can't have 3 women in one house trying to run it. And same thing in a beehive. There's one queen, and that's the thing. They're not going to kill. Now, the only exception to that is when you're making queen cells, the first one out starts killing the other ones. If the other ones is anywhere from 2 hours to a day later, they're not going to cut them down. They're going to fly out and mate. The bees will actually stay around those cells to protect them. That's their survival.
So there was probably 3 or 4 balls, big chunks. So each one of those probably had a queen in them.
Right, if not more. That's just like throwing $200 to $300 on the ground and walking away from it. You had them on a white sheet. All you had to do was dump them in front of the sheet, or on the sheet in front of the beehive. And when you seen the first few bees starting up into the beehive, take that beehive right then and move it back about 18 inches. You already got the scout bees on the landing board. They're going to fan the pheromones, and the queen is going to come there. And all the queens will start walking that way. Have a handful of queen cages with some corks. All you got to do is catch them one at a time, put them in the cages, keep them separated, put them in a nuke, leave them caged in there, shake a frame or 2 of bees in there, and now you got another nuke.
Dang, I'd love to know that. I got a buddy who's got 150 some hives, and he said he checked today and he thinks 50 of them are without a queen. He doesn't know what's going on.
You might be catching his swarms.
Yeah. Dang it. I'll do that next time. I'll give it a shot. My box is good to go then now, huh? They'll fight it out and I'll have a queen.
Well, if you can, go through it tomorrow. Pull the frames up. Sometimes they don't kill right away, but most of the time, within about an hour to 3 hours, they're pretty much going through that hive. And they're going to start, eliminating competition.
All right, I'll check them out tomorrow, but man, that box is full of bees. It's just solid.
I would wait 3 days, put a super on it, because a swarm that size will fill a super up with capped honey in about 3 to 5 days.
Okay, I was wondering that. We have a good honey flow going, so
yeah,
I'll fill the super on 3 days then.
Yep.
Well, thank you, Don. I appreciate it.
Good day, Don.
Hey, how you doing?
Good, thanks. Calling from Australia. Just like to wonder, Australia doesn't have any varroa mites yet. Would you have any tips?
You're telling me, but I've talked to people in Australia before, and they have a few here and there.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Is it the northern areas?
It's I'm thinking it's down by Melbourne, towards the coast there. Now if you look at my videos, there's 250 some there. There was a lady who flew up from Australia to take classes from me a year ago, and she's in 2 of my videos. So evidently, I guess she called you blokes don't want to share nothing.
Maybe.
Well,
also,
she is an onion pollinator. I don't know if you're familiar with that, but she's got a farm or something. She pollinates onions.
Yeah.
And she wanted to learn to make queens and stuff, so she flew up here to do that.
Oh, right. Second question is, there's a practice quite common up here with a brand of cloth called Chuck's cloth, where you lay it over the super of a hive, and the bees attack it, creating like a beetle trap, which gets rid of all your small hive beetles. Just wondering whether that happened. You guys do that?
I have never seen it or heard of it. There's people that use it's a dryer softener sheet they put in a hive, and they say that it's supposed to collect beetles, but I personally haven't done it because most dryer sheets contain perfume, and I don't want perfume to taint honey.
All right. No. These are kind of like hospital wipes or
Yeah,
something related.
unscented shop towels like. I don't know. I have no experience with that.
All right. Okie dokie. Thanks.
All right, it's good to hear from you down under.
Thank you. Thank you. All right. I'll be leaving now to make space then. Thank you.
Okay.
Hey, Don.
Yes.
I talked to you about that 10 frame deep. Now all the frames are full except for the outside. And what I'm worried about is I want to make queens out of that, but I'm afraid they may lead the hive. So if I wait 12 days, I mean, you say wait at least 12 days for a queen cell, so you can keep double checking that?
Check it every 12 days. Now, if you say the outside frames is not drawn out, that is number one reason I went from the 10 to the 8, because 10 frame they hardly ever do nothing, and the only way you get them to draw it is take those outside frames, move them in 2 spaces, and take the other ones and slide them to the outside, and then sometimes they'll start to fill honey up on the outside. But an 8 frame will actually outproduce the 10 frame 2 to 1. Okay, so that's what I did. I'm just trying to get it in my brain. I don't want these things to swarm on me. So they can't swarm unless they got a queen. And if you're checking them every 12 days, if the cell is not hatched, they don't have a queen. They're not going to leave without mama. Okay, that helps me out quite a bit. Thank you. Okay. Well, if nobody else got any questions, I'm going to call it a night, and we'll try to set up a chat 8 o'clock next Saturday. So write your questions down, and we'll see you next Saturday. Everybody have a good evening.
You too. Thank you.
All right.